Alright, so this is the makeup for the winter season. It's just a gray smoky eye, pretty easy to do. The thing that's kind of making it more different than just a regular smoky eye is obviously the bottom lash line and that big pop of teal that connects to the wing, and then obviously the nice bold lip. The purpose for the video that I made for y'all is so that the makeup looks the same and so that everyone kind of knows what they're doing, because I kind of give you tips and pointers about how to apply it and how to make sure that it doesn't look sloppy, because using dark colors, like, it can be really easy to make this look super like crazy, like really dark and just kind of nasty, and we don't want that. We want it to look nice and still beautiful even though it is dark. At the end of the video, I will have all of the things that I used listed, and everything that I used was like a drugstore product, so they're not very expensive. I think that the most expensive thing was like mascara and eyeliner. Like, for example, the eyeshadow quad that I used was only like $5, and that's the only eyeshadow that I used, so you're not going to be using very expensive products. You will also need to make sure that you have foundation and blush. That is what is required for your face makeup. I suppose if you wanted to use bronzer and like do your eyebrows and stuff like that, that's up to you, but foundation and blush is required. So just pay attention, and then if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section, because I'm sure that if you have a question, then other people probably have the same question. So if you just ask it in the comment section, then I can answer it there and everyone can see it, instead of just asking me in person where like only you would know the answer, you know what I mean? And make sure that you have the link to this video, because it's not public on YouTube, so you have to have the link to view it, okay? So make sure that if you do lose that link, ask Jessica or myself, and maybe your captain. One of us will have it. Okay, I think that's it. Just make sure that you pay attention and that, you know, we don't be looking crazy. Let's just go ahead and get into how to get this look. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start off by pulling my hair back behind my ears so that it's not in my way, because I'm going to start applying foundation. I'm going to go ahead and use the L'Oreal Paris Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. Another good one is the Maybelline Dream Matte Velvet Foundation. They're both from the drugstore, so they're inexpensive, but they're pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and start by dotting this on my face. I'm only taking this in sections, because if I put it on my face like the whole way, I notice that it dries really fast, and then by the time that I get to parts of my face that I didn't get to fast enough, I'll have like these dots on my face and I wasn't able to like blend it out smoothly all across. So make sure you're just aware of something like that, just so we're able to get a full even coverage all over the face and no patchiness. Now I'm going to go ahead and start applying bronzer and blush. Again, the bronzer is not required, but blush is, so make sure that you buy one that complements your skin tone. Some good blushes are from NYX, Milani, Wet n Wild. Those are my favorite from the drugstore. I almost dropped mine, and so that's why I made that face. But I use the Wet n Wild Color Icon blush. I think it was in the shade Rose Champagne. We're going to start with eyeshadow now. I'm using this L'Oreal Quad. I believe it's in the shade like Silver Couture or something like that. I'm going to take a fluffy brush, and I'm going into that silver shade, not the lightest shade, but the more gray toned. And I'm going to go ahead and take that into my crease and the outer V of my eye. So I'm starting out with small amounts of color, because I don't want to just start packing in and like starting off really dark. The way to keep this really clean is by starting out with light shades and building up to the darkest shade, because if we just start putting on a bunch of color and a bunch of darkness on the eye, it'll get really dirty really fast. So now I'm just doing the same thing to the other eye, making sure that I'm keeping the pigmentation the same on both eyes. We don't want one eye darker than the other, because then when we start building on more eyeshadow, it'll start to look bad. Now I'm taking the same quad, same brush, and I'm going into the darker gray, not the darkest shade, but the middle gray color, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to start by putting that in the V of my eye, the outer V, and then I'm going to start dragging that into my crease as well. And I'm basically layering this on top of the light gray, and again, I'm just going to start building it up from lighter to medium to dark. And I'm going to make sure that the pigmentation is the same for both eyes as I go along. Now I'm going to go into that same quad with the same brush, and I'm going to take the darkest shade. It's like a dark charcoal. It almost looks black. And I'm going to start pressing it onto the outer V of my eye. And then after it's pressed down and placed, I'm going to start blending it into the crease. you have to make sure that you press it on and then place it down before you start just rubbing it on, because if you start rubbing it on before it's actually placed down on your eye, you're going to get a lot of fallout and it's going to start looking crazy and you're going to have black everywhere and it's going to be a hot mess. Make sure we place first and then blend out. Now I'm just taking a clean brush and I'm going to start blending out the top of the dark eyeshadow, basically where like my skin starts, because what's happening now is that since this is a dark shade, it's starting to look too stark and it's starting to look like a straight line, and we want it to look more blown out and more smoky. So by blending out the top, that's how we achieve like not having such a stark line on the face. And then here I'm just basically going back in and deepening it up. I'm still pushing it on my eyes and then blending it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and start on the other eye, making sure that I do the same technique and making sure that the pigmentation is the same. And again, you'll see that once I've done this, I'm going to take that clean brush again and blend that out as well, so that's nice blown out and smoky. Once the pigmentation is the same for both of the eyes, I'm going to take a makeup removing wipe and I'm going to start from my bottom lash line and I'm going to pull up to my temple. Okay, so what this is going to do is I'm going to clean this up and make a straight line, and it's going to give me a nice lifted effect, and that's what we want obviously as performers. We always tell you to lift up. So I'm going to start pulling this up and then it's going to make my eyes look very lively and I'm almost like you're smizing or whatever. That's what we want. We want something very lifted, and especially when we have dark colors, like we can really tend to look sad, so we don't want that. Now I'm going to take a flat packing brush. So this is a very flat and thin brush. That's the kind of brush you want for this. So I'm going to take that silver shade and I'm going to start putting this on the inner parts of my eye. I'm going to put it about 3/4 of the way in, and I'm not going to put it all the way across the lid because we still want that black to show up on the outer V. I'm going to start packing that on and I'm going to pull it up all the way to the crease, and then I'm just going to go back in and intensify it because we do want this silver to pop. Once I have that silver down where I want it, I'm going to go back into that quad and I'm going to take my fluffy brush and that dark charcoal color, and I'm basically going to clean this up because, you know, the silver kind of got in places I don't need it. So I'm basically just going to touch it up and put it in the outer V of my eye and then gently rub it into the crease. I'm not doing this so much as to build the colors, it's more so for cleaning. Make sure that you don't go past that line that we made with the cleaning wipes. And then after that, I did go back in with the silver and intensify it up just a bit more. Now I'm going to do my eyeliner. I like using felt tip liner. Black liquid liner is fine. Just make sure that it's black and it's liquid. I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a wing on both eyes. It was kind of hard to show you how to do a wing on that eye that I just did, so this next eye you'll be able to see what I do if you don't know how to do a wing. I like to start off by just lining my eye first and not even worry about the wing. And then after I've done that, then I'll start the wing. So I'm going to draw a line where the eyeshadow ends and my skin starts. And then I'm going to connect it to my lash line, and then I'm going to start from the very top of the wing and then pull down towards my top lashes. For those of you with bigger eyes and more lid space, a wing will be pretty easy for you to do. For those of you with small eyes and like no lid space like me, going slow and steady and using small amounts of color at first and building up will be your best bet. Okay, so just make sure to go really slow, okay? Don't get frustrated at first if it just looks bad, because as you can see, my wing wasn't perfect, but I'm slowly building it up and just watching what I'm doing and making sure that it's even, and then, you know, it's all good at the end. After that, I'm going to go ahead and take brown stick liner. Any brown stick liner from the drugstore is fine. And I'm going to apply that to the waterline. Make sure that you know the difference between your waterline and your bottom eyelid, okay? We're applying this above the lashes, not under the lashes. Now I'm taking a flat definer brush. Make sure you get something that has a very straight edge because we're going to use this for our bottom lash line. I'm going to go back into that first color that we used, that very cool gray tone, and I'm going to rub this under my lashes now. So I'm working on the lid, not the waterline, and I'm going to take this all the way across. All right, so I'm going to start from the very outer edge and I'm going to work all the way to the inner edge, making sure that I get a nice full gray smoky look, okay? Make sure you kind of drag it down a bit, not keeping it really close to your eye, okay? We do want to see this. Then I'm going to go ahead and go into that second color that we used, the darker gray. And I'm going to take this only a third of the way in. So I'm not going to go all the way to the inner part of my eye. I'm going to start from there and I'm going to go halfway in. Now I'm going to make sure that I put them down evenly, and I'm going to go back into that quad and I'm going to take the dark charcoal color with the same brush, and now I'm going to apply this only to the outer part of my bottom lash line. Okay, I'm not going to drag this in very far, okay? So what this is doing is it's giving me dimension because it's kind of giving me a faded look on the bottom line. So it's basically like a gradient effect. That's what we're trying to get. After I make sure that the colors are even, I go back into that packing brush and I pick up that silver color that we used earlier. And now I'm going to put this on the inner corners of my eye. I'm going to make sure that we don't put this too close to the nose because then it starts to look a little crazy. I'm going to make sure that I blend it onto the top and bottom lids, alright? So make sure that when you pull that in on the bottom lid, you only pull it about a fourth of the way. And then when you're blending it onto the top lid, you want to make sure that you connect the two silvers. So I want to connect the silver from my inner corner and I want to connect it on my top lid so that we don't just have this random punch of color in the middle of our face. I like to make sure it's even afterwards, and then I'm going to go back into the silver and intensify what I had on the top lid. And then I'm going to go into the charcoal and also intensify that as well because it's kind of looked washed out after we've added all that extra stuff. And now comes the fun part. We're going to go ahead and take this Maybelline Color Tattoo Shadow. The shade I think is like Tenacious Teal or something. You can see it's very bold and very cute. We're going to take that flat definer brush and I'm going to make sure that it's nice and clean. I'm going to make sure I want to get all that gray off because we want this blue to pop. I'm going to pick up a lot of this product because it is creamy, so we want a lot. And I'm going to start placing this on the outer edge of my bottom lash line, but I'm not putting this all the way up against my waterline. I'm kind of putting this like at the end of the gray shadow that we have. So I'm kind of placing it like where my skin starts and the eyeshadow ends. I'm going kind of slow and steady and dragging it towards that silver that we have at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to start taking it up towards my wing. But making sure that I don't cover the wing, we're actually going to leave this underneath the wing and kind of adding to it, giving it a more of a pop. And now I'm making sure that I'm keeping this very smooth and rounded. We want it to have a nice linear shape, okay? We don't want to have like a jaggedness to it, so I did kind of go outside the lines. So I'm taking my makeup removing wipe and I'm pulling it up so that it's nice and straight. And then now from here, I'm basically just intensifying and defining what I already have. Okay, notice that there is not necessarily a super thin line of blue, okay? It is kind of thick. We do want this to be very visible. So make sure that you don't make this little thin line and be like, all right, there it is. No, we want to make sure that it is visible. Now for this eye, you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. I'm starting where my skin starts and the eyeshadow ends, placing that blue, connecting it to the silver, and then pulling it up to my wing, leaving it underneath, okay? So as you can see, I'm making very straight lifting motions and I'm not really flicking towards my skin, I'm flicking up. Now I'm using that makeup wipe to kind of shape the end of it. I want it to blend seamlessly with the wing. I want it to have a nice point, just like the wing does. And I want to make sure that that blue doesn't look rectangular, alright? So make sure that it's very pointed, just like the wing. Now I'm going to take that flat packing brush and use the silver to kind of blend in the blue and the silver together so that it looks nice and seamless. And I'm going to intensify the top lid again. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply mascara to my top and bottom lashes and do my eyebrows because they're bothering me. And then the other thing that I was going to tell you is that for this blue, you can use that sponge, the nice and pointed side that comes in the L'Oreal quad if you're not able to find a flat defining brush. Just kind of is up to you. Now I'm taking this NYX Soft Matte Lip Cream in the shade Copenhagen and I'm applying that all over my lips. And this is it. This is your makeup. Alright, I'm going to have a hair tutorial for you as well. Make sure that when you do your makeup, it looks as close to this as possible. And then if you have questions, leave it in the comment section and I'll answer them for everyone to see. Make sure you stay tuned for the end of the video to make sure you see all the products that you'll need.